Hello everybody, welcome back to Cinema Savvy. It is myself, George, bringing you a brand new review, and today I'm going to be doing a spoiler-free review for Captain America Brave New World, which is being released in cinemas this Friday the 14th of February, directed by Julius Onah, and I'm going to be giving, as I said, my spoiler-free thoughts on this film, a film I literally just got back from London from watching. It's been sat in my mind for a few hours. A film that I was very lucky to see early, which I always do mention on these spoiler-free ones, but I'm going to say for people that do want a spoiler discussion, they want something a bit more heavier, things they want to talk about, character arcs, moments, individuals, maybe things that were cut. We're going to do a spoiler discussion at the weekend. Now, I'm not sure if it's going to be live yet. It may be Saturday morning. If it's not live, I'll upload it Saturday evening. So there's going to be some more Captain America stuff. And if you're a fan of Marvel, we've got a massive MCU playlist on our TV section on the channel homepage and on our film one. So if you want to check out some of our older Marvel videos, you're more than welcome to. But as I said, I'm talking Brave New World. I've seen it early, and I guess it's time to get into it, if I'm honest. But before that, if you want to follow us on social media, we have a lot of things happening at the moment. We're getting busy. It's Oscar season. If you're watching this between in the next few hours of this going up, we've got a Cobra Kai spoiler review dropping at 8 AM UK time, midnight Pacific time. Maybe if you're watching in the morning, that's already going to be up. We've got a couple of uploads. Not a spoiler discussion for that one, but there's new releases, new reviews, there's things to talk about, there's award season, there's so many things going on. Always recommend to get us on social medias: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd and Blue Sky. That is where we are, and there's a link in the description below which will pop you through to all of those. But that being said, let's talk Brave New World. And this is a film that has been through quite a lot of turmoil, if I'm going to be completely honest. I'm just going to give my initial thoughts going into this film. I really like Anthony Mackie in the MCU. I love at the end of Endgame when he is given the shield, it's passed on to him, rightfully passed on to him. I didn't mind the Falcon and Winter Soldier TV series. I think it was a bit unlucky, if I'm honest, that it came out during COVID. There were clearly much editing going on to stop the whole bioweapon thing. And as some of the Marvel shows have done, it's not maybe had the best writing and ended up being the best product, which was a shame because people such as Anthony Mackie were amazing in it. And heading into Brave New World, my thoughts on this, as someone that's still following the films, that's seeing some of the shows. I didn't see She-Hulk, I've not seen What If, but I'm still following it to an extent. I've also not seen the one from last year, Agatha, that was it. But I'm still following the films, of course, and I'm looking very excited to see what comes. And an issue I've had with the films recently, many other people have, it doesn't feel like there's been any correlation in story, in the storytelling perspective across the cinematic universe. Nothing taking it forward. That's been a common criticism. It's what people have spoken about. And this felt like the first film that's kicking us onto the track of, we're going to start building towards something. This is a timeline of what has been happening, that has happened. Here's some things that we're going to do in this film, and here's some things we're going to not set up for the future, but it will play a key part of future cinematic installments. So I'm going to say this immediately. This film nailed that vibe of it being set within a continuity of itself, especially for fans of the TV show. Now, I think you can understand this if you haven't seen the show, but it very much brings in supporting characters from that who were great in that show and deserve the chance to shine on the big screen. And the film really does deliver with that. So that's a massive positive for me. The negative side of heading into this film was the amount of reshoots, rewrites. That's not me judging it. That's very much a bit of fact that's been there. Now, almost every film has reshoots. A lot of big films will have the reshoots built on at the end. It's not uncommon. It feels like in the last, I will always say post Rogue One, it feels like reshoots have been made this big thing. But sometimes it can be worrying when there are so many reshoots. And I will say, heading into this, I was a little bit worried about what this film's going to be. Now, I'm a fan of wrestling, as I've spoken about before. Seth Rollins, a wrestler, had shot scenes in this, and he'd confirmed a few minutes back, nope, everything's been gone. And I know that there's been, again, so many reshoots, so many changes in story. There's 5 or 6 writers credited. If you don't know any of that, it's not going to probably affect your viewing. And for me, knowing that, I was a bit hesitant, sat down ready for this. And I think that's fair to say. But what sort of transpired across those 2 hours was a film I very much enjoyed. And I'm going to sort of kick off the basis and foundation of it with there. It's not a perfect film by any means. There's some gaping flaws with it that I'll talk about too. But overall, I thought the film was solid. A solid entry to the MCU. And that sounds like I'm understating it somewhat. It's not. It's with the MCU at this point, you're 36 films in now, 34 films in. I always forget which number we're at. And there always needs to be a bit of variety. You can have a great comedy like Guardians of the Galaxy. You can have a heart-wrenching drama. You can have something different like The Eternals. It's never failed for variety, especially when you bring in the one-shot things on Disney+, you bring in the TV shows. And the first trailer for this, it felt like it was trying to go back to the roots of Winter Soldier, that maybe it's going to be something a bit more grounded, saying that as much as I can, knowing that Red Hulk was going to be in it. And I was more interested in that vibe, that, okay, is this going to be an espionage? Is this going to be a film about trust, or is it going to be about Anthony Mackie earning his badges again after already doing that in a TV series? And I can gladly say it didn't proceed with that. But what the film does do is somewhat struggle in a predictable manner to get through to those final moments. As I said, I enjoyed this film. There's some really good action choreography, but where the flaws come into it for me, which is quite gaping, and when I compare it, I don't need to compare it to Winter Soldier, but it's a Captain America film. It's probably got the best fight choreography with Civil War, and it's something with modern action that I've struggled with, that John Wick's the master of, is when there are the great action sequences are shot in a way that you can just sit back and watch it. You can see everything you need to see. They're framed, they're choreographed, they're rehearsed in such a manner for the camera. And where this film was disappointing for me, and it's not disappointing overall the film, but a key foundation of what MCU as a brand has always typically been good for, is the action sequences through maybe not cinematography, but more the editing side of things, were not edited clean or nice. And what I mean with that is, every single time you're sort of there already, no, let's have another quick cut, let's have another quick cut, let's have another quick cut. And it's hard to appreciate the choreography, the action, the stunt work, because they're just cutting every single time something happens. The comparison I have in my head, which is horrible, actually I've got two now. The first one is the fence scene. Is it Taken 3? You will know the fence scene, right? When it's just Liam Neeson climbing over a fence, but they do like 30 different cuts to validate it. And that's always looked outrageous. The second one I can think of is obviously Bohemian Rhapsody won Best Editing at the Oscars. And there's the table sequence where, again, it's just so many multiple edits, cuts, here, there, everywhere. You can't settle with the scene. And I can understand the attempt, the whole Jason Bourne vibe, that obviously was very good at doing that quick editing. But that was done in such a great way. This wasn't clean. This wasn't easy on the eye. I know I was watching it in an IMAX. I was at Cineworld Leicester Square. It's one of the biggest IMAXs in the country, or maybe in Europe and the world. For the quick cuts on there, at times it just made it not difficult to follow, but it just wasn't as entertaining visually, which is a shame, because from those set sequences the action looked great. It looked like there were some really cool sequences, especially all the stuff with the shield. There's some really interesting work that, you know, you bring in the Falcon side of things, that he's got a jetpack, he's not a super soldier, he's not had the serum. They're doing all this great stuff with the shield, but you weren't able to appreciate it because it was just being edited all over the place. And that's something I've really struggled with, that brings the film down for me. There's some really great things in this. I mentioned the more espionage type stuff. I wouldn't really say espionage, but very much there's a political thriller going on in the background, and this is where Harrison Ford comes into it. Obviously, he took over playing the role of Thunderbolt Ross. He's now the president. Obviously, through marketing, you know he's going to become Red Hulk. I'm not going to talk about that moment, the scenes with it, how long it went on for. That'll be in our spoiler discussion, but I loved Harrison Ford in this film. I love Harrison Ford over what everybody does. He's an absolute legend of cinema. He's incredible in Shrinking, which I really do recommend to people to watch at home if they want something new from him. But I was surprised at how much I enjoyed him in this film. It's not the easiest, the hardest role in the world, sorry, for him to be taking on. It looks like he's having a bit of fun with it, but this isn't the Harrison Ford that would just sometimes just turn up to set and be done with it. He actually gave a great performance. And at times people might struggle with obviously the change of actor. Obviously, we had the previous actor pass away in between the films, so they bring him in, they make the joke about the new moustache. But bringing in Harrison Ford, you get gravitas that comes with that. And to play up the president's cracking thing, we know he's going to become the Red Hulk. There's some really good sequences. We get to explore more of his backstory with other characters who haven't been seen in the MCU for 16 years at this point. I won't name them, but obviously they're attached to the film. And again, the Thunderbolt Ross stuff worked well for me. I really enjoyed that. Those sequences were some of my favourites when he's on screen. His interactions with Anthony Mackie I thought were really interesting. And there's again a certain subplot going on with him, which I don't know if it was apparent in the trailers or not. So there's a lot to enjoy about that. I mentioned Anthony Mackie being great. He was superb in this film. I don't think he had the script personally that he deserves. I say the same for Falcon and Winter Soldier. I think he's great in that series as well, but he deserves his not a Russo moment, but he deserves to have like a great script with great directors involved and having that big moment. I feel like we're going to get that in future films. I know we're going to do Avengers Doomsday, and there's going to be Secret Wars. Is it Secret Wars? I've forgotten the name of what's following Doomsday. But I want to talk about somebody else. I'm trying the new laptop thing again, so bear with me. So we've got Danny Ramirez returning as Falcon in this, the new Falcon, I'm going to keep calling him. Now, I spoke earlier this week about Monica Barbaro in A Complete Unknown. Love seeing the Top Gun Maverick group thriving. I know he was in this before Top Gun Maverick came out. He obviously was in the TV series, that character carried over. He's got great chemistry with Auntie Mackie. They worked very well with one another. Got some great sequences, and again, it's that MCU continuity. Let's keep building towards something else. And this film delivered that with his characters. And then we've got Carl Lumley returning as Isaiah Bradley, who was obviously one of the old Captain Americas that was wrongfully treated by the Americans, very much featured in the TV series. Now, he was amazing in this, bringing into the political paranoia, the thriller type things, very much Manchurian Candidate. He was amazing. His scenes of Auntie Mackie were great. He had some really interesting drama work, and I thought he was one of the best things in this film. Himself, Harrison Ford, and Auntie Mackie personally carry this entire film for me. They are the best parts of this film, is their interactions with one another, the drama and figuring out the plot as it's unravelling, and that leads us on to an antagonist as such, which is obviously the leader, character returning for the first time since 2008. I don't know how much I'm allowed to say about Tim Blake Nelson in this, but he plays a villain. It's Tim Blake Nelson, you know, he's a very confident, capable actor. I was surprised at how much the character's involved within the story. That's where I'm going to leave it. It's not a spoiler as such. I want to talk about that in more detail on Saturday. But it was very much going back to the Incredible Hulk. Well, the Incredible Hulk was almost as important to this film as any of the other Captain Americas. And I think that's a polite way of saying that. So if you need to do some more homework, there is that. But I enjoyed him in the film. Predictable at times as villains can be. And one of my sort of pet peeves of cinema is when the smartest guy in the room needs to tell you that he's the smartest guy in the room to enhance his intelligence. I never like that sort of thing. It skirts around that a couple of times, which is a bit annoying, but there is some really interesting story perspectives that get played up, and I enjoy where his character takes it with the paranoia side of things. Now, it might not work for everybody. I'm sat here somewhat glowing about the film. I very much enjoyed it. It's a solid film. It's a solid entry to the MCU. It's not groundbreaking. It's not definitively changing things. It's not up there with the top tier Marvel films. It was just very watchable, very entertaining, a great way to put your head in for 2 hours. I think if you watch it, you're going to enjoy it, and it's something I'm going to recommend to people. I didn't gain anything out of the IMAX stuff. Normally I'd talk about that separately, but as I mentioned, maybe the screen I was on really didn't help with the quicker editing style. Maybe on a smaller screen it's going to be a bit easier to track the action in some of those moments. So I'm definitely recommending a cinema viewing for it. If you're in the MCU at this point in time, you don't need me to sell the film to you. I guess the question is it worth watching at the cinema over watching on Disney Plus? Now, I'm always going to advocate for the cinema experience, especially with a Marvel film. Obviously it was a big crowd. It's always is at these type of events. And I enjoyed it there. You still get some people going on their phones, you still get some people shouting over the film, but it was a good crowd. It was the right type of crowd for it, and I had a great time watching it. So that's my recommendation. And my kind of final thoughts, I think it's a solid film. It's a watchable film, and definitely one worth seeing. The first of 3 MCU films at the cinema this year, but that's going to probably do it for everything I want to say on the film itself. As I said, we're going to do a spoiler discussion on Saturday. That's going to be a bit heavier, a bit more in detail. And when we've got some details for that of times, we'll post them on our social media. So that's going to do it for today. Thank you all so much for watching, for sticking with us. Any feedback if people want it on the camera setup. I'm just trying to rejig doing something now. So I'm just testing a couple of new styles, but it's making it a little bit easier. And hopefully it means less stuttering, looking around, looking nervous on the camera, which when it's pointing up there's no notes, there's no nothing to go off. It can be a little bit harder. So that's going to do it for my review today. As I said, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.